Welcome to
Only Murders in the Building,
the official podcast.
Join me, Michael Cyril Creighton, as we go behind the scenes with some of the amazing actors, writers, and crew from season 5.
The audience should never stop suspecting anything.
How can you not be funny crawling around on a coffin?
No, that's true.
Catch Only Murders in the Building official podcast, now streaming wherever you get your podcasts. And watch Only Murders in the Building, streaming on Hulu and Hulu on Disney Plus for bundle subscribers. Terms apply.
What's up, everybody? My name is Garrett Chapman, and this is the Falcons Podcast with me, Garrett Chapman. Very excited to do this. Plus, we got a lot to get into here on the Falcons Podcast. And the biggest thing is the Falcons they got their first win of the season. Their very first one of the season, and I will take it. So welcome in, everybody. Victory Tuesday, very first one that we have on the pod. Very excited to join you here with this one. Give me a follow while you're here at GChapATL on Twitter. Stay fully up to date on everything that we have coming on over there on Falcons on SI. But make sure to like the video, share it with your friends. Make sure that they can get in on some of this Falcons discussion. But tonight, we got a good show set up for you. Very excited to release some of my biggest reactions, my biggest takeaways from week 2. I know Scott and Nick, they got into some of theirs yesterday. But we're going to discuss some of the defensive strides that this team has taken just in the first 2 games of the year. Just incredible. I mean, does anybody else not recognize this team anymore? I've been following this team my whole life, and I've been now working professionally covering them now for 7 years now. And this is the best defense that I've seen so far. It's a pretty nice thing to see. It's a great change of pace. We'll also talk about the offense. Not necessarily as many roses for the offense in general, but there are some to hand out. And I think that we saw some really good signs in Sunday's win, but there is one big glaring weakness, and we'll discuss that as well. But we will take your questions, and it's a royal we. It's just me on the podcast today, so you got to bear with me. But I will take your questions here, so make sure to drop those in the comments. We'll get to them throughout the show, but I want to start with what we've seen on this defensive side of the ball. And I put an article out, and you can go check it out at GChapATL, Falcons on SI. Google that, si.com/NFL/Falcons. You can find it there as well. But the whole point is that this Jeff Ulbrich defense is working. So far, so good. And you faced 2 of the best teams in the NFL offensively from 2024. Now, one of them has a new offensive coordinator. One of them is a new quarterback. Things change year to year. I mean, it's the NFL. That's the only consistent thing in the NFL, is that everything is going to be different the next year for the most part. And one of those things that is different is that the Falcons have a reliable defense now. Look, you look at what they did against the Buccaneers. You look at what they did specifically against the Minnesota Vikings. And traditional stats, they're the friend of the Falcons right now. They're second in points. They're second in yards. They're second in turnover margin. They're 5th in sacks. They're getting after the quarterback, and it's spurring everything. We saw the signs of it in week 1. They gave up some points in that one. They didn't get any turnovers. They had opportunities to get turnovers. But I think what we saw on Sunday is an amalgamation of what actually happens when you squeeze the football and you make the play. Jesse Bates talked about how this team dropped 4, maybe 5 turnovers in that loss to the Buccaneers, and you catch one of those interceptions. You're looking at a completely different game. Specifically, if it's like Caden Ellis, then we're talking about him potentially being an NFC Player of the Week, like Defensive Player of the Week. That it's a game-changing play that he potentially dropped there, and it's not his fault. I'm not going to lay the loss at his feet or anything like that. I'm not trying to do that at all. Divine Diablo had an opportunity. James Pierce had a couple of near sacks that he had. Xavier Watts dropped some interceptions himself. But what we saw on Sunday was what happens when you're able to do that. It changes games, and it flips everything on its head. And I mentioned the traditional stats that are the friend of the Falcons. How about these advanced stats? Because that is almost just that much better, because generally what you've seen with these Falcons is they look really good at traditional stats, but when you get into the advanced stuff, it actually tells a different story entirely. But this year, that's not the case. I mean, you look at EPA per play, they're among the top in the NFL. They're 5th in EPA per pass. They're 4th in sack percentage. 10% of dropbacks right now are going for sacks. This Atlanta Falcons team, this defense is accounting for sacks on 10% of dropbacks. That's 4th in the NFL. They're 4th in QB pressure rate, 46%. These are completely foreign things to us here in Atlanta. And it's especially important. We didn't see it as much in week one because you have Baker Mayfield, who's kind of an off rhythm, like an off platform type of passer who wants to kind of get out and make plays with his feet and go do things off, I scramble outside and go do crazy stuff. That's what he does. It's who he is. That's why he's fun to watch when he plays football, even if he plays for the other team. But the opposite is true for JJ. JJ McCarthy, I mean, this is a rhythm passer. This is a rhythm offense up in Minnesota, and that's what O'Connell likes to do. Get this quarterback going, get him in a rhythm, and then he plays. And the way that you beat a Vikings team is you knock them out of rhythm. It happened with Kirk Cousins. It happened with Sam Darnold last year, and it just happened on Sunday. Falcons never let him find that rhythm. And they did it with blitzes. They did it with four-man pressures. They just got pressure. They got it in his face. They hit him 11 times. They had 16 quarterback pressures. They had 6 sacks. I mean, it was very impressive what they were able to do. I mean, the 5 sacks, we saw it on Twitter. 5 sacks, most of the first half since 2009. Up at some point in the fourth quarter, they were up to 60% on their pressure rate. They were harassing this guy, and he never had a chance. And they made him look like a rookie quarterback. And then you look at what they were in short yardage situations. That's defined as plays of 1 or 2 yards. I tweeted about this earlier. The Falcons had 11 of them in this situation. So Vikings ran 11 short yardage plays. They got it for -4 yards. -4 yards. They had a pressure rate of 60% in those situations. It tells me that the Falcons and this plan that Jeff Ulbrich had, it's working. It's working. And it gives me hope that this Falcons team is finally figuring some things out because they haven't had a player account for more than 10 sacks since 2016. I said at the beginning of the season that there's a good chance that changes. Now, I said it was Arnold Ebiketie. It doesn't look like it's going to end up being Arnold Ebiketie just through 2 games. But this is a group that has only managed 169 total sacks over the last 5 years. 30 sacks less than the next team. It's crazy how bad they've been at this, but they've fixed the problem. And I think we can definitively say that through 2 weeks. They have fixed the problem. They got the pressure on Baker, but he just spreads out and makes plays. That's what he does. We saw what this team is fully capable of doing just in terms of his pass rush. And the rest of it just kind of came to fruition. But the other really encouraging thing that I saw from this defense, and we'll talk about the young guys. Give me a second. We'll talk about the crazy day of first for them. But this is one other big nugget that I've seen from them. And it's the fact that the secondary in general is tackling super well. I mean, the whole team is tackling really well. They allowed 78 yards rushing, which is very important, especially to a Minnesota Vikings team that really wants to run the ball. That's their bread and butter. They really want to do that effectively. And Jordan Mason in this offense were only able to account for 78 yards. That's important. But the secondary is tackling at an elite level. 95 yards after the catch allowed. 95 yak combined in the 2 games that the Falcons have played this year. That's by far the best number in the NFL. I want to say it's something in the range of like 30% better than the second place team. I mean, I think when I was looking at it, the second place team is closer to 10th than they are to the Falcons right now. I went back, watched both games, and I looked at every single completion that was made against the Falcons. A lot of them are on the sideline, but a lot of them, you have a Falcon that's right on top of them. You have somebody who's right there to make the play as soon as the ball is caught. You're not giving away free yards. And that adds up over the course of the season. That's one of those little things that I think coaching does. Jeff Ulbrich, everything that he has been able to do with his team, it's working right now. It's doing a very good job of working. And I think a lot of the issues that you saw in week 1, I think that was as much inexperience as it was anything else. And you see the corner that they were able to turn when you go from week to week. And it gives me confidence in this team moving forward. We're 2 weeks in, though. Got to give it some time. But I don't want to overreact to everything that I've seen. But the results, speed, pressure, and depth, those are things that this team has not had. They've consistently not had it. And right now, based off of what I have seen, I'm very encouraged. And it all starts with these new contributors. And that's where I'm going to talk about these young guys and some veterans, because some of the veteran newcomers are also, they deserve some flowers as well. So I would say that there are 8, potentially 9 really big new contributors to this team. Rookies, they're studs. The free agents, studs. Second-year players, studs. Xavier Watts, we talk about his big game confidence. He had his first career pick. Billy Bowman, I mean, he was the first player in 30 years, first Falcon in 30 years to have half a sack, 10 tackles, and an interception in his first 2 career games. He had an interception, he had a sack in his first game. Jalen Walker finally showed some of that elite skill that we've been hoping to see. Had some great bend. He got his first career sack. James Pierce had 4 pressures in week 1. He got his first sack. Divine Diablo had a sack last week. He nearly had some interceptions, but this week he had a fumble recovery. Zach Harrison had a strip sack. Leonard Floyd, he had a sack of his own, but he also created sacks for his teammates with some havoc plays. I mean, there was a play, I don't remember where exactly it was in the game, but I distinctly remember watching this film where he blows up 2 guys. He goes right in the middle of it, and he blows up the center and the guard. And what it does is it knocks a guard on his rear. He goes right into the lap of J.J. McCarthy. And what it does is it forces J.J. to step to the right, and Brandon Dorless, who had 1.5 sacks in this game, he comes up and he cleans up. It's creating for everybody, and it's a symbiotic thing, and it's something where we haven't seen something like this in Atlanta in a while, because you haven't had the guys who had the chops to make it effective. And credit to Terry Fontenot, because Terry Fontenot has done he's invested a lot. He's invested a lot, and the early returns are absolutely there. And the other crazy thing about this, aside from the 2 vets, Leonard Floyd and Divine Diablo, the average age of all the players plus Zach Harrison that I mentioned is 22.5. 22.5. This group is young. So it gets you excited about potential because you assume that they're only going to get better, right? But it also tells me another thing, and this is where I want to have everybody pause for a second and breathe. There's a lot of inexperience here. There is a lot of inexperience here. They could get better, but they might also have some of those moments, right? Like we saw the moment that Jesse Bates had in the game against the Bucs in week 1, where he actually is the reason that he gets sucked up in coverage, and then they go over the top and they beat him there. Mistakes happen, but the difference is that's a veteran, and he comes out in week 2 and he responds, and he's that much better, right? He had some very big time plays in this game. Young players make mistakes. Young players, we've just never seen them respond to those mistakes and try to get better after the fact. So we have to have some grace. It's just through 2 weeks, there's no reason to have grace, because these guys have just been unbelievable. I mean, as of today, as of me recording this podcast on September 16th, the Falcons have just nailed all of their picks, at least their first 4 defenders. But I see a lot of people have started to jump in the podcast, and I see some folks have already dropped likes. I really appreciate that. So if you were watching on Twitter, hit the retweet button. I really appreciate all of it. Hit the like button, or hit that follow at GChapATL. We talk a lot of Falcons here on the platform. If you are over on YouTube, welcome. Thrilled to see you. Make sure to hit the subscribe button. We also take donations over there on YouTube. So if you feel so inclined, just hit a guy up. Always helps to keep the lights on here. But hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, share it with your friends if you're over on Facebook as well. We really appreciate any and all support that you guys have. But I do see some questions and comments starting to roll in, so I'm going to start getting to those here. I see Philip Crawford over there on YouTube says defense. Yes. No, defense is the name of the game here in this game. 22-6. You don't allow the home team to score a single touchdown in this game. Defense generally is going to win you that game, right? So I do have some other things that I want to talk about here with that game, and we'll get to some of those reactions here in a little bit. Atlanta Dog 88 says it's only been 2 games, but the Falcons are top 3 in most EPA defensive categories. It's absolutely right. You're absolutely on the money. Exactly right about that. I mean, this is a group who is starting to discover some of that potential with Jeff Ulbrich, and I think it's been very promising, just the early returns. And I think now you have the Carolina Panthers team who you're facing, who has struggled in terms of those advanced metrics. Now it's a divisional opponent on the road. We'll talk about that on Thursday, but we have plenty of time. So Austin over there on YouTube says, hopefully this team can build off the win, never settle. No, there is no settling in the NFL. If you settle in the NFL, you'll lose. You lose your job very quickly and people get cut and your career is over, right? This team they haven't won anything as far as like their end of season goals. They didn't set out at the beginning of the season and say, we're going to go beat the Minnesota Vikings. That's not the way it works, right? They need to go put together a lot more. They're still in second place in this division, so they still need to go make a run. But the numbers, if this team starts 0-2, are disastrous, not very good. So it's a good sign that they were able to get this win, and especially on Sunday Night Football in front of everybody else. They kind of established an identity in front of the country, and that was really nice to see. We got Tony Moore. So glad to see the defense and especially their energy. Yes, the energy. And you talk about that attack style that Jeff Ulbrich said he was going to bring. You saw it in the preseason games a little bit, just snippets of it. But they put it all together here against Tampa and then against Minnesota. And I think you had some bad moments against Tampa. And I think the Falcons kind of shot themselves in the foot in that game a handful of times. You have some special teams blunders. Younghoe Koo's miss obviously is the thing that harkens through everything. I mean, that's what everybody remembers from it. But you also had a Bradley Pinion punt that sailed. And then you have Tampa returns that punt and they get the ball up into plus territory and they score a touchdown on that drive. You have situations where you're not getting plays in. You have pre-snap penalties and things of that nature. I mean, Ruka Roro had a late hit on Baker Mayfield. You made a lot of mistakes in that game. But you see the identity starting to form, to your point, Tony, and I really, really did like that. Got a bud over there on YouTube says the Falcons won for the first time in my son's life, and I was so confused when they got back-to-back goal line sacks. Yeah, I mean, that was the craziest thing. It was one of the craziest things. They got back-to-back sacks. I mean, you see Jalen Walker was able to explode off the right side, and I can't remember who got the second one. I want to say it was Brandon Dorless and Rook. I think they combined for the second one. I can't remember offhand, but you do get a goal line play right there. And historically, the Falcons that I kind of knew for a long time, and I think a lot of you guys knew as well, was as soon as they get up to the 2-yard line, you're like, all right, touchdown's coming. Whatever. Just let them just get it. Let's get the ball back to the offense. We're going to go. I think they were up 6-0 at the time. Give them the lead. You're going to flip around and you're going to get the ball back. Let's go do something. Not this defense. Gadabout, that's a great point. I mean, it's one of those things that feels new about this defense, and it feels better just in general. And I'm very encouraged just through the first couple of weeks. Leaf Yapel says late stream. Yeah, I'm 6 o'clock every Tuesday and every Thursday. It'll be every Tuesday and Thursday throughout the regular season. So make sure to set a reminder, come on over and join us. We're going to do this twice a week, every single week. So lots to get into, but no, Nick and Scott, they're going to be bringing you stuff on Mondays and on Wednesdays in the morning. So that's the best time for you to catch those two. My name is Garrett, and this is the Falcons Podcast with Garrett. So it's going to be me here, just hanging out with you guys. And Tony, I see one more comment from you, and then I'm going to jump over here. I'm going to get into some of my other reactions, but I'm going to continue taking your questions, taking your comments, and we're going to make this a good old back and forth because that's how I enjoy kind of doing things. And it's fun. It's fun because we're all one big community, one big Falcons community, and we're just chatting about our team. Tony says, if the defense continues this upward trend and the offense brings it together, we have a chance for a special season. Yeah, very special season. And that kind of gets me into the next big thing because the defense, yes, throw the flowers at the defense because there were a lot of things that they did very effectively on Sunday. The offense had some things that they did very effectively. They had some things that they also did not. So to Tony's point, and that's where we're going to go next, the offense left a lot of meat on the bone. A lot of meat on the bone. Now, let's start with the good, and then we'll get to the bad. So the good stuff that we saw, I think it's pretty obvious. After struggling in week 1, you had 48 yards between your two running backs rushing the football. It's not acceptable. It's not good enough, especially for this team with this identity, with those guys. 48 yards is crazy. Well, week 2 against the second best NFL rush defense in 2024, they had 218. You want to talk about a a dramatic change in what the success of this team, what kind of success this team was able to have. That was the most for the Falcons in a non-overtime game going back to week 11 of 2023. It's a long time. And it came against one of the best defenses in the NFL. Bijan Robinson, of course, he accounts for almost the entire total from week 1. He has 47 yards by himself on 4 carries on the first drive of the game. The Falcons had 48 in week 1. He ends this game. He's got 143 yards, 6.5 yards per carry. He had 168 total yards, which is almost as many as the Vikings had in the whole game. Tyler Algier, he also had a really good performance in this game. He had 76 yards. He was averaging 4.8 yards per carry. He also had the team's only touchdown of the game. When you're able to run the ball like that, I don't care really about anything else, offensively at least, because you have a defense that's able to do what it does. That was fantastic. And then you just squeeze the life out of a team with your ability to run the football. And that's the identity of this team. But like, let's not get it twisted at all here. This team is at its best when it's running the football. I mean, hell, any team is going to be in really good shape if they run for 200 plus yards. I don't know what the record is. Maybe someone in the comments can look this up for me. What's the record of teams when they eclipse the 200-yard mark? How many teams have lost a football game after running for 200 yards? I think that'd be an interesting thing. If somebody wants to go grab that and find that out for me, I'd be very grateful. But I would venture to say it's pretty damn good. Pretty damn good. Because if you are running the ball that effectively, it means you're dictating the tempo of the game. It means you're squeezing the life out of an opponent. It means that you have the ball and their team doesn't have a chance to do anything. They're just standing there on the sideline. And I think the Falcons I think they led by 4 or 5 minutes or so in time of possession. It showed. And I think it kind of makes me feel a little bit better because you look at the box score of what Michael Penix was able to do in this game, 13 of 21, 135 yards. It's the lowest offensive output in his young career, but it also comes against a Brian Flores front that likes to send exotic blitzes. And he was pressured a lot. He was sacked a few times in this game. They got into his face and they made him uncomfortable. But the thing is about Michael Penix, and this is why box scores don't tell the full story. It's why you got to watch the game, folks. It's why you got to watch the game. And then oftentimes you have to watch it again. This quarterback is uncomfortable in this game, but he's also comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I think that is his superpower. You see what he was able to do in that first game against Tampa. You have those 2 plays on the goal line where he puts on a superhero cape and he becomes Superman for a moment and he advances and scores, right? Or he gets a first down. And he is so good at doing the difficult things and making them look simple, right? And I think that his numbers would be a lot better too if you had some drops there. Bijan Robinson had a bad drop. I know Drake London ended up having a fumble. It just killed him. It killed the third possession that this Falcons team had. And I think that this game probably looks a little bit differently if you're able to do that. But I mean, ultimately, Michael Penix made some big time throws. Michael Penix made some very difficult throws. But he didn't play poorly. I don't think he played poorly by any stretch. But the explosiveness, admittedly, is not where I want it to be. I don't think it's where this team needs it to be yet. But you've also faced 2 very high-end types of defenses who send crazy blitzes. I mean, you think about the 2 guys in the NFL who have the reputation for sending exotic blitzes and making younger quarterbacks uncomfortable. It's Todd Bowles and it's Brian Flores, and the Falcons have faced both of them in the first 2 weeks of the season, right? And they're 1-1, and the offense largely has been pretty effective altogether. It's just the good thing is the production between the 20s. But what quickly becomes the negative thing, and I said we were going to start with the good thing, and now we're going to get to the bad thing. This red zone offense is not good. The red zone offense is, well, it's worse than not good. It's bad. It's pretty bad. And I asked Raheem Morris about it on Monday, and he basically comes out and says it's not where it needs to be. That's pretty clear. You know, in week 1, I talked about the 2 heroic Penix runs that he had on the goal line. Outside of that, you had 9 plays that picked up 2 yards in the red zone. You were inside of the 5-yard line for 7 plays. 7 plays. And you still couldn't pick up positive yardage. You still couldn't reach across the sticks.
Whoa! That was a bop! Ooh, let's keep the party going with the Claptrap Public Domain Serenade! Happy birthday to you! Let's all loot and shoot! Ba-ba-doo-doo! Borderlands 4! Well, that kind of fell apart toward the end. But you get the idea. Borderlands 4 is out now! Buy it! Buy it, buy it, buy it!
Rated M for mature.
Week 2, it's more of the same. You had 13 yards on 9 plays. And that's before the final red zone opportunity where Tyler Algier punches it in. But, I mean, again, if you watched the game, you know that the Vikings were allowing the Falcons to score. They just sort of pulled off, and they didn't give them an they did not try to make a tackle, and Tyler Algier walked the ball in because they wanted the ball back. That was going to be their best opportunity to potentially get back into the football game. You know, so the red zone offense is not good enough, and I think the play calling is very vanilla down there. It's been largely ineffective. And Raheem talked a little bit more about it being more execution. And I think that's true to some extent. I think they need to be able to get the play call in. I don't know if that's on Mike or if that's on Zach Robinson. But you have several instances in this game where the play call comes in very late. Mike doesn't get it to the huddle. They're not able to get a snap off. On one hand, you have a delay of game penalty where you're to avoid a delay of game, you have to call a timeout, and you come back out, and then you go all the way down to the buzzer. And look, you have a left tackle who jumps offside, right? And he does a false start. You cannot do that in the red zone. You cannot do that. Every single yard counts. But then on top of that, you also have Bijan Robinson dropping passes in the red zone. You have guys who it's just not good enough, right? And look, you got away with it. You got away with it in this game. But the fact that you had to rely on 4 field goals in the red zone, and it's just not good enough. It's not good enough. And when you start facing some more potent offenses, some that aren't having a quarterback making his second career start, then they might come back and burn you. Because what happens if your defense isn't able to play superhero ball and do the crazy things that they were able to do? You need to have a defense that supports its offense and vice versa. This is a team sport, and all 22 need to be out there and doing big things. And I feel like the defense did its job. The offense largely did it, but it needs to be better about finishing plays. And I think that's really what it all comes down to. All right, I'm going to get back into some other comments, and then I got it. Actually, let me say this real quick. And this is the big injury from the game, and this is the big other thing that everyone's going to be talking about this week, and it's the status of A.J. Terrell. I know that some people are going to have comments about it or questions about it. There is no update right now. We do not know. We do know that Keith Taylor was just signed to the practice squad. He is a cornerback. He was on this team throughout training camp. He was signed in the spring from Kansas City. He's going to be the now 9th guy that this Falcons have between the practice squad and the active roster. But we don't know what A.J. Terrell is going to do. We don't know what his injury status is. We will find out hopefully tomorrow, but my speculation says it's not good. I'm speculating there. I don't know that for a fact. That's not anything that I've heard from the organization. But the way that it all went down makes me very nervous. And this Falcons defense can't afford to have him on the shelf for an extended period of time. Hopefully he's fine. But it's a soft tissue type of issue. It looked like a hamstring. That's what he held and that's what he grabbed. But hopefully he ends up being okay. But we shall see. D. Alford stepped into his place. He played really well. You know, I mean, I'd say he played 100% of the snaps after AJ went down with his injury. And I think when you have a front seven that's able to harass and do the crazy things that they were able to do, then I think it makes everything else a lot easier just in general. So he really wasn't put in a bad spot. You did have the one long reception to Justin Jefferson right at the buzzer, right before we got to halftime. But that looked, when I look back on it, it was more Xavier Watts kind of getting turned around at safety. He bit a fake from Justin Jefferson. Look, he's one of the best, if not the best wide receiver in the NFL. So he was always going to get his to some extent, but the Falcons did a good job corralling him and making sure the damage wasn't worse. But you can't give up plays like that. All right, but I do want to jump into some of your questions here. Gear Trail 95. Thank you for the donation, man. I really appreciate you. He says, and if anybody wants to do this, you'll jump right to the front of the line. And if you have a question or a comment that you want to make sure gets featured, make sure to drop that. And I'll see it over here on the side, and I'll drop you in here. So I appreciate you, Gear Trail 95. Says, I want to believe this isn't an outlier. After all, the defense played solid against Baker in week 1 at the beginning, but we'll have to see. Yeah, I don't think it's an outlier. I think that this is the identity of this Falcons team moving forward, Gear. I think that this is what they wanted to do. This is what they wanted to build. And you saw the investment start coming last year with Ruka Roro and Brandon Dorless and all these other guys that you go and pick up. They have the red shirt year effectively. Not effective. They have a red shirt year. And you don't see them even play a game or take some snaps until the very end of the season, just as they were continuing to adjust into life in the NFL. But I think through the first 2 weeks, you've seen these guys. And I think Jeff Ulbrich is a return to the style of play that I think Raheem Morris really wants to have. These guys have coached together for a long time. They've got a good rapport. And I would say ultimately, like, this is the unit that I think Terry Fontenot envisioned. And he's finally got some guys who he's hit on. You know, he's tried on Arnold Ebiketie. I think he's largely been average, really, at best. And that's why he was so aggressive to go do what he needed to do with the first round of the draft last year, with going and getting James Pierce, jumping back into the first round to go get him, and then getting Jalen Walker as well. That's why you do those things. Because this team had a glaring hole. They had a glaring need, and they addressed it as quickly as they could. And you're starting to see the dividends from that. But I also don't want to forget the fact that Leonard Floyd is as important to this room as anybody else. He's a seasoned veteran. He's been around. He's had nothing but consistent play over the last 5 seasons. I mean, it's been a long time since this guy has not had an 8.5 sack season. I want to say since 2020. I mean, this is a guy who's been in the league for a long time. He's been to a lot of places, and he knows how to coach up some younger guys, and I think he's done a really good job of that. But yes, thank you for the donation. If anybody else throws that in there, I will jump right to your comment or question. So I appreciate that, and any and all support I do appreciate. So thank you, Gear Trail 95. All right, so I'm jumping in here. I got to recatch my spot here, and while I do that, just very excited about what we've seen. So, Leaf Yapel says, I've not been this excited about a Falcons team in a long time. I share your excitement. I was more apprehensive at the beginning of the season, I will say. And folks who have been following since I started up doing these podcasts in August, they'd probably say the same thing. I was a little apprehensive. I was a little nervous about where this team was, mostly because of the inexperience. You have inexperience at quarterback. You have inexperience along the defensive line in the secondary. Not a lot of depth at the wide receiver position, and you have guys who are starting for the first time on the offensive line. You know, we were coming in as new week 1 starters, but through 2 weeks, you're starting to see trends. You're starting to identify things that will make up the core of what this team is moving forward. Leaf, and I was thrilled with what I saw, because that was a dominating win. That was punishing, and I haven't seen the Falcons win a game like that, where they were just so much better in a long time. And that was quality competition. It's not like they went out and played the Browns or something, right? Who, ironically, have had a really decent start to the season, just defensively at least. But no. Tony comes out and says, how awesome is it seeing Kyle Pitts going? I will say this. Kyle Pitts is somebody who I have given a fair share of criticism to. And I'm not alone in that. I know there are a lot of people who've done the same thing. I will fess up to it. I will always, and that's the thing. If it's my opinion and I've shared it, I will fess up to it, right? And if I'm wrong, I will even fess up to that as well. I think it's very important, especially if just to have this honest dialogue. If we're going to have this conversation, then we need to have it. But Kyle Pitts has proven me wrong this year so far through 2 weeks. He's proved me wrong, and it's not even something that shows up in the stat sheet as much as it is anything else. But the stat sheets it's really good. He was starting about 8 times, seven receptions in game 1, almost 60 yards. Game 2, he's got 37 yards receiving. He's got four receptions in this game. Like, the numbers aren't going to blow you away, but you're seeing more of what we expected to see out of him. And it was more just consistency. You strong hands, going up and getting the ball, fighting after you catch the ball and going and making a play, picking up first downs, getting tough yardage. And that's something that I felt that Kyle Pitts was lacking. And that's something that we've seen from him in the early portions of the season. Now, I'd like to see some of the more numbers come put together and everything else, but we'll see. I'll maintain my expectations as pleased with what I've seen from Kyle Pitts. I want to see more of that going forward. To Austin, hey, how about this? So Pitts and Ray, they need more touches. Yeah, Ray didn't record a stat in week 2, but I think that was part of the game plan, because when you are in this kind of situation where you're running the ball as well as you are. You have your lead guy averaging 6.8 yards per carry or 6.5 yards per carry. Your second guy is averaging almost 5 yards per carry. Austin, you're going to turn around and run the ball. That's what you're going to do. But it doesn't spread everywhere else. I mean, if you're going to run the ball well, if you're not going to stop the run, then that team needs to just run the football until something changes. But that's what you're going to do. So it just means that you're not going to throw the ball nearly as much. But 21 targets or 21 total attempts in this game for Michael Penix. I'd like to see Ray get involved. I would expect that we're going to see him, but that's life as a number 3 receiver in the NFL. I don't think Ray needs to be the guy necessarily that you focus on. I would like to see Kyle Pitts get some more targets. I think he's earning those targets, but you're starting to see him get more and more involved just as the season goes on, and I think it's going to continue, especially as he continues to play this way. Darnell is probably the person who I would say needs more attention just from this Falcons team, but he's coming back from injury. He's still playing his way in. I don't know what his total snap count was. That's a decent point. I might pull that up here just while we're getting going, but I'm going to continue to answer some of these other questions from you. But I'm going to look that up just as we go, and I'll let you know what I see from that. But Darnell Mooney is somebody who I would actually say over Pitts or Ray or anybody else like that, because he is your primary deep guy. I mean, that's the guy who you want to see catch the ball deep and make the big plays. And I talked about the overall lack of explosivity that this offense has had, or the lack thereof, I should say. And having a guy like Darnell is going to make a big impact on that moving forward. Let's keep on going through another percent. Atlanta Dog 88 says nice seeing Pitts throw blocks too. Yeah, absolutely right. They can always throw it to Kyle Pitts more, and I think he's earning those targets. John Roberts says Atlanta Falcons had a lot of sacks. They sure did. 6 sacks is that's pretty good. It's good now that they are up top 5 in the NFL in sacks, which crazy. He says true that. Over there, Tony Moore. Tony says Tampa didn't beat us. Mayfield's legs beat us. I think Baker Mayfield's legs had a lot to do with the fact that Tampa was able to win that game. I tend to agree with you there. But I do feel the Falcons, and I said this then and I'll say it again, the Falcons were the better team in week 1. I think they were just stronger, more consistent. They did more in this game. It's just they didn't answer the bell when they had the opportunity. And you talk about winning the moments. I talk about this all the time when I cover college football or anything else like that. Any kind of football. Football's a game of moments. And it's about who wins those moments. And ultimately, that's likely who ends up winning the game. And I don't think that the Falcons effectively won the moments against Tampa. It's just all it comes down to. Baker Mayfield, Tampa, they did. And they won the game. And that's really what it comes down to here. Atlanta Dog 88 says it would be nice to go into that Bills game 3-1 and shock the NFL and beat them. I think that would be really nice. I think that'd be really nice. And I think it's actually setting up nicely for that. I think somebody did come out and say 3-1. I said that was probably a little bit too bullish. I've changed my tune a little bit just based off of what we saw in week 2. I said I was apprehensive. I was definitely apprehensive, and you're 1-1 through 2 games. That's great. I think you need to go on Sunday and go get a win. And I think you should go get a win. I expect that this team is going to go get a win because this is not a Panthers team who's looked all that impressive through 2 weeks. I just think the Falcons need to go in and get that win. And then the game against the Commanders, it comes in Atlanta. So you're going to be making a return home. Jaden Daniels is banged up. Jaden Daniels got hurt last week. And Marcus Mariota is the starting quarterback for them this weekend. I don't know if you remember, but Marcus Mariota was the starting quarterback here in Atlanta. And I'm of the opinion that Marcus Mariota does not need to be the starting quarterback anywhere in the NFL, but that's why he's a backup. But Jaden Daniels is hurt, and his status for week 3 is in question. His status for week 4, he's considered day-to-day. I think that's what Dan Quinn said. And it's unlikely that it's going to be Marcus Mariota. So I think it's going to be Jaden Daniels. So we're still going to have to face him, but he's going to be banged up, I'm sure. So it's interesting. It's something to follow just as we move into it. But yes, I completely agree. Being 3-1 going into the bye week is very good. And I think that would be the perfect situation for this Falcons team. And then you come out of the bye week, you get the Bills, and you can see what happens, right? And then you get a banged up San Francisco 49ers team. So who knows? I mean, everything changes in the NFL. Like I said to start, the only thing consistent about the NFL is that it changes, and it'll change week to week. It'll change quarter to quarter sometimes. The Falcons, as long as they can be on top of that, that's the important. Tony Moore says, we usually make rookies look like all pros. I'm assuming that's what you're talking about with J.J. McCarthy. I think that's what you're referencing. Correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, I mean, like, look, this is historically, that's what this Falcons team did. I mean, even when they went up to Minnesota and they played, the old Josh Dobbs. Yeah. He was, he showed up literally the day before, and he was like shaking hands and initiating conversation with his offensive line. He said, hey, what's your name? Hey, Josh Dobbs. Hey, it's good to meet you. And then he goes out and leads a game-winning drive against the Falcons. Yeah, that was the kind of crap that this team used to give up. Taylor Heineke, the Commanders. I mean, he did that crap against the Falcons. That's what this team would do. You would find ways to kind of lose games creatively, and the defense was probably mostly the team who was to blame. But no, I mean, they didn't do that on Sunday. Credit to them. Stephen B says, not convinced simply by watching D handle business versus Falcons or Vikings with questionable quarterback and left tackle play. That's fair. That's fair, Stephen B. The Vikings did have some injuries on the offensive line. They were playing some backups at the position, and you have a young quarterback who can't throw to his left. He's just had some issues. J.J. McCarthy does. I think that's probably the comfortable way to say it. I mean, you look at the scouting report, and it's very clear that if the Falcons were going to send some pressure and get the blitz there, then it was going to cause some problems for him, and it did. That's largely what happened. And to your point, Stephen, that's true. But to my point, I'm not just reacting to what we saw week 2. I'm reacting to what we saw week 1, and I'm painting the full picture now of what we've seen, again, like I mentioned, with a limited sample size through 2 weeks after week 2, right? So you combine some of the positive things that you saw in week 1, and you see, okay, let's finish off some of those plays. Let's go get some of those sacks. Let's get some of those interceptions. And you start to see some of that stuff kind of build. And now trends aren't exactly trends through 2 weeks, but they can become trends. And these are things that we're starting to notice. Got my guy Gadabud over there on YouTube. Like I said, if you drop in a donation, I will always go to yours next. So thank you so much. Gadabud says, I was really looking forward to going to the Buffalo game in person to watch Koo and Bass kick balls. The fact that neither will kick is depressing. Yes, Georgia Southern grads are disappointed about that one, and I will be very clear about that. There aren't many Georgia Southern players in the NFL, and I know that great folks down there in Statesboro. I was one of them at one time, but being able to go see Youngway, potentially a Georgia Southern grad who went to school down there, and then Tyler Bass, who actually came in and replaced him. Strong kicking culture down there in Statesboro, but no, Tyler Bass is on the shelf, so he's going to be hurt for I don't know how much longer he's going to be hurt, but. And then Youngway, it doesn't look like Parker Romo is going to cede the job to him. That competition is going to continue. So that's another big update from head coach Raheem Morris. And I know Gadabud's going to be very interested in that. 90% is the quote from Raheem Morris. That's what he said about whether or not Parker Romo is going to be his starting kicker in week 3. Take that for what you will. I'd say that Parker did enough to win the job, in my opinion. He clearly won the job in camp, or not in camp, but he did in the week of practice building up to week 2. And then he comes out and connects on 4 kicks and does what he does, or 5 kicks and does what he does there. And he won the job, in my opinion, but 90%. That's what Raheem Morris said, and I will repeat that to you. Let's keep on rolling through some of these comments. Thank you all. Thank you to Gadabud, and thank you to Gear Trail 95. We're going to keep on going through here. Got to go catch up right here. So DQ says, who will play opposite of you since AJ is out? We don't know if AJ is out. Just full disclosure, we do not know that yet. The last time we talked to Raheem Morris on Monday, he said that there's no update. He said we will not know anything until we get in closer to practices. And there was no insider report as of today, nothing that I've seen from the national folks. And we didn't see anything or we won't hear anything until tomorrow when we get up to Flowery Branch. But when we get that update, we will let you know. But D. Alford is the guy who stepped in and played 100% of the snaps after AJ Terrell went down with the hamstring with the hamstring injury, and played well. I mean, he played pretty well. So hopefully we can see a little bit more of that. Tony Moore says Vikings won what? How many games last year? 13. They had a really good season. They were 1 game away from playing winning the NFC North and being the number 1 overall seed in the NFC. Right. So they had a really good season. Different quarterback, Sam Darnold. But they moved from him to another first-round quarterback, and Falcons played well. Let's just put it that way. Tony Moore says, probably Alfred. So he's answering that question.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. Between two-factor authentication, strong passwords, and a VPN, you try to be in control of how your info is protected. But many other places also have it, and they might not be as careful. That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast for 40% off. Terms apply.
Let's keep on going through. It sounds like some people are having a back and forth conversation, which I appreciate. Tony Moore says Diablo's signing was huge. Yes, Divine Diablo, and I will say this, and I will pound my podcaster chest about this one. I've been saying Divine Diablo's name for a month and a half now, almost a month, at least a month and a half is probably more accurate. This guy is so damn good, and he is so important to what this defense wants to do, because he matches the athleticism of what Troy Anderson was supposed to bring, but he's consistent with it. He's long. His arms are big. He's got great instincts. He is fast. This guy is sideline to sideline fast. He makes sure tackles. He fills the right holes, and he does what he is supposed to do. And this defense is so much better for it. And the other great thing is that it opens up Caden Ellis to go do more things. We talked about Caden Ellis getting that red arrow, right? Just go get the quarterback. Something he can do now, and it's something that he can afford to do. It's something we saw him do later in the season last year when this defense saw a big old uptick in sacks. It's because he's got a guy in Divine Diablo next to him. And the guy can do everything. He can do everything, and he's been one of the most important pieces on this defense. And he deserves his credit for that. Stephen B says, best part about Vikings game is Falcons didn't draft J.J. McCarthy. Yes. And I'll tell you this. So one story here for you. We go back to the draft last year, I guess it was last year. I did not want a quarterback. And I will, again, like I said earlier in the podcast, if I'm wrong about something, I will freely admit it, and I'll be open about it, because look, I'm not wrong very often. It comes off kind of cocky, but I work very hard to do what I do. I work very hard. So I'm not wrong very often, but I think I was wrong about my reactions when the Falcons drafted Michael Penix. But I was very pleased that they did not choose to draft J.J. McCarthy. J.J. McCarthy, coming out of this draft cycle last year, had some very serious problems, in my opinion. I thought he was a fine quarterback in terms of accuracy, but he doesn't have great arm strength. He quite literally cannot throw to his left. He cannot throw to his left. And I think we saw that again. If you want to go look at his flow chart, I don't have it here, but if somebody else wants to go check it out, it's over on Twitter. I've seen it some places. I'm not going to go look for it here, but I do know that the guy could not get passes off to the left. And I mean, what did you notice in this game? You have a lot of the misses that he had in this game were to the left side of his body. It's because he changes his throwing motion. He goes that way, and it's weird, and it just looks uncomfortable. You saw a guy, I think, threw Justin Jefferson into the sideline once, just on an incomplete pass. He skipped a pass at one point, and he sailed one long on a play that would have blown this game wide open. Like you talk about the long pass over the top, J.J. McCarthy missed it by about 10 yards to the left side. And that was something that it was a big red flag for JJ coming out of this process. And it was also the fact that he came on a team who didn't rely on him very much and everything else. But no, I don't want to get too deep into what JJ McCarthy is per se. I've probably already talked too much about it, but no, I tend to agree. The joke is well received. And I think that's another reason that we should be very happy with the guy that we have here in Michael Penix. Dude's got an arm. Dude's got a cannon for an arm. And I think it's only going to get better the more he steadies in and continues to play. But you've seen some of the potential here in the early parts of the season. Brandon James says probably Alford will fill in for Terrell. Yes, that's who he did it in the last game. I'm assuming that's who's going to do it throughout the course of this week, but that's going to continue to evolve just as the week goes on. Atlanta Dog 88 says I'd rather elevate Kobe than start Alford at cornerback. No. Kobe Bryant is a fine player. Kobe Bryant is on the practice squad. Kobe Bryant is on the practice squad for a reason. It's not that he's a bad player. It's not that I don't like Kobe Bryant. It's that he's not ready to be an NFL cornerback. If he was, he'd be on the active roster, and someone else would have scooped him. I know a lot of people were very upset saying that there's no way he clears waivers, and he clears waivers. I mean, he's got things that he's got to work on. He's an undrafted free agent, right? He's not going to give you more than D. Alford. And look, D. Alford had plenty of shortcomings last year, and he can always stand to continue to improve. Some of them are physical, and I don't think he's going to get better at those just because you can't really get bigger. You can't get taller. That's just not how it works. But no, Kobe Bryant is not going to start for the Atlanta Falcons at corner, right? There are other guys that you can put in the spot. Mike Ford is somebody that you would put in that spot over Kobe. And I know people are probably freaking out about that. The staff feels very comfortable with Mike Ford. That's why he's on the active roster. Now he's probably going to do more in special teams and things like that, but D. Alford is going to be the guy anyway. So it's a moot point anyway. It may be completely irrelevant too, because maybe AJ Terrell's healthy. We do not know yet. Just want to make it clear. Brandon James says, hit that like button. Yes, please do. If you're watching over there on Facebook, likes, shares, all of that is very appreciated. If you're watching on Twitter, make sure to hit that follow button at GChapATL. And hit that retweet button. And if you're over there on YouTube, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. But any likes, any comments, anything else like that helps our algorithm, and it helps us bring some Falcons content to you. So thank you, Brandon James. Let's keep on rolling through. Michael Ronquillo always comes in with the hearts. I appreciate you, Michael. Appreciate you. Let's keep on going through here. Tony Moore. If only we had a little preseason for more of our starters, I think we would have taken week 1. Interesting thought. No, I don't think that would have made that much of a difference. Because it didn't look like it was rust that was really the problem for the team. I don't think that's necessarily what we saw from them. And also the Buccaneers didn't play their starters, and the Buccaneers actually had a really slow start in that game, I'd say. The Falcons defense played at a high level. They did what they needed to do for the most part in this game. But like I mentioned earlier, they missed the big moments and they fell short in those. That was really the story of the game, not anything that happened in the preseason. I've said it on this podcast. I've said it on my show on Sports Radio 92.9 The Game. I've said it on Twitter. I've said it in a lot of different places, and I'll say it again right here. I don't think that playing preseason games makes a whole hill of beans difference. It does not matter. It really doesn't. These are professional athletes. They know how to play the game of football. Michael Penix has been hit 1,000 times. Divine Diablo has made 1,000 tackles. These are guys who literally do this for a living. And I don't think 2 or 3, 4, 5 plays in a preseason game is going to make that much of a difference. 2 series, it's not going to make a difference. And you get more game reps, especially with they're running vanilla looks. You're not actually seeing anything. You're not actually visually being challenged. And that's why you see teams starting to go away from not even playing in the preseason. The majority of teams don't play in the preseason. It's meaningless. Doesn't matter. And I think the joint practices are far more important than anything else. I'm not trying to come at you, Tony, necessarily. It's just where I stand on the issue. And we heard a lot about it for a month. And so I wanted to make it very clear where I stand on that. Stephen B says, rank these dudes: Dallas, Turner, Walker, Pierce. That's a good question. I'm going to say, as of right now, as an edge rusher, because that's just where I'm going to hold these guys, I'm going to say James Pierce, number 1, Dallas Turner 2, Walker 3. And I think that's going to change in the coming years, right? I think James Pierce offers you the most right now, just as a pure pass rusher. I think Jalen Walker is going to offer a lot more in the years to come. That's a guy who's going to get better. That's a guy who's going to continue to show that he can improve. And Dallas Turner, I think, is somebody who's just a great athlete. Came out of Alabama, really good player. I believe he had a sack in this game. I want to say, actually, let me pull it up. Yes, he did have a sack in this game. He blew up the play. He came in and he had a big performance here. But yeah, I'll have Dallas Turner second there. But again, I don't think it's that big of a difference. Ultimately, it's not. It's so early in the season that we'll see. But I think James Pierce is just a freak, and I think the world's going to be put on notice. I think he got his first half sack in. I think he got his first half sack in this one, but it's going to be the first of many down the stretch. Vor Guerrero, I see this is a comment here on AJ Terrell's injury. No update. In case you missed it earlier, there is no update on AJ Terrell as of now. Just stay tuned. Give me a follow at GChapATL. I'll update everybody as soon as I know about what's going on with AJ, and we'll get a story up over there on Falcons on SI. But as of today, as of Tuesday at 6:55 p.m., no, there is no update on AJ Terrell. All right. Let's see. Tony Moore, Bijan. Yeah, Bijan Robinson was just a stud, man. Like, this guy is just a beast. I see another donation. Michael Baxter. Thank you so much. Again, anybody who drops a donation, I really appreciate it. You were going to jump right to the front of the line. Michael Baxter says, what's your favorite thing about being on 92.9 The Game? I love my job. It's one of the many things that I do, and it's not a job. I think it's really just an absolute blessing, being on the radio and being that connected with people in this market. It's one of my favorite things to do. It's why I want to do this podcast. It's why I want to connect with folks in as many places as I can. I love this city, and I love this brand, and I love these teams. And talking about them is all I do. It's all I want to do, and it's fun. But no, I think it's ultimately, to answer your question, it's the camaraderie around all the folks over there at the station, top to bottom. I mean, literally from Mike Conti all the way down to everybody in the producers, the weekend guys, everything. We're one good team, and I'm very happy about that. I love where I work, and I love working with the people that I do. And I appreciate the question. Yeah, I do. I've been there that was my first job out of college, Michael, if you can believe it. I got it. I started in promotions, and I worked my way up and got my way kind of. That's how I got going, and they gave me my opportunity, and I've been forever grateful for that. It's been a lot of fun, and it's just an absolute blessing. But Michael, I appreciate the question. All right. I'm going to jump back into some of these other questions. We got a bunch of questions, got a lot of people following the podcast. Thank you so much. We got 60, 70 people over there on YouTube. We got 50 people over there on Twitter. I got 5 more over there on YouTube. Thank you so much. I appreciate all the support. I appreciate all of you jumping in there and spending your Tuesday afternoon or Tuesday evening with me, just talking some Falcons, and I really appreciate that. Stephen B comes in and says, London is role-playing his 2024 Pits. Drake London's hurt. Drake London's been dealing with a shoulder injury. He got banged up. And I think he's suffered a lot from the fact that Darnell Mooney's not in these games, and you're also playing defenses who are very well coached and are just really good at what they do. You're going to see Drake London's his role is going to evolve, and it's going to continue to get better as he continues to heal and get healthier. But also just as the season kind of goes along, he's going to have his games. He's going to get his. If you're a fantasy football owner with Drake London, I'm one of them. Don't panic. It's going to come. It's just in time, and I think it'll be fine. And look, that fumble from Drake London. I see somebody dropped it in here. Or Tony Moore says it. I think that was just a great play from their defensive player. Yeah, it was really, that's what it was. It was just a great defensive play. It was a better throw from Michael Penix. I mean, Michael Penix goes across his body and just whips that ball in there. Just incredible what he was able to do with that. And then Drake gets it, turns around, and it's just a perfect punch there from a cornerback. Perfect play from the defender. And I don't fault Drake for that at all. It's football. And sometimes it's not going to bounce your way. Michael Baxter says, good evening, Garrett. You're my favorite. I appreciate you, Michael. You're the man. Thank you so much, and appreciate you jumping in and listening and following along. Atlanta Dog 88 says, Mooney looked out of sync. I think Mooney is somebody who you need to follow. Mooney is somebody who you need to watch just as we continue to go along throughout the rest of the season. He's a focal point of this offense. He's somebody who's very important to what they want to do. But he wasn't somebody who got super involved in this game. I was a little surprised. I thought we were going to see a little bit more of him. But like I said earlier, if you run the ball for 218 yards, keep on running that football. And I think that's really the most important thing that you can do there. Brendan James says, I have faith in Jeff Ulbrich as defensive coordinator. He always had the Jets buzzing on defense, even if other parts of the Jets were lacking. Yeah, the Jets defense was really good. You had a really good defensive-minded head coach up there, and Saleh. And I mean, this is a group that was a group that had better personnel than most people in the NFL do. And they had better personnel than what they had in Atlanta, but the mentality was always felt. And that mentality has made its way to Atlanta. And I think you're starting to see some of the results of that. Alberto Molina, interesting proposal here from Alberto, says trade Cousins for Tyreek. I don't think the Miami Dolphins are going to be in the business of quarterbacking yet. I think they're in the business of absolutely trading Tyreek Hill, but they're going to acquire assets. I don't think they're, unless you have a front office that's going to hit the desperate button, maybe, but it's Tua's offense, as bad as the situation is down there. I mean, Tyreek's a great football player. Tyreek's somebody who's going to continue to be a great football player in this league. He has one thing, and he can do it really, really well, and that's run. And he's still going to be able to run, and he can still do that at a high level. The rest of what they can do is just not very good. And I know that I figure that the Dolphins are going to be a team that continues to sell just as the year goes on. Not that you sell all that much in the NFL. It's just not the way it works, really. It's not like baseball. It's not like the NBA. It's not stuff like that. But no, I ultimately don't think this happens. I'm increasingly of the opinion that Kirk Cousins ends the season in Atlanta. I did not hear any buzz about anybody reaching out to Atlanta for Kirk Cousins. And you lost a lot of quarterbacks over the last couple of days. And maybe if things go really poorly in Cincinnati, maybe if things continue to go poorly in Minnesota, maybe if things just elsewhere just don't go well, and you have coaches who need to maximize where they stand, maybe then you start getting some phone calls. And I think that's where the Falcons want to be in that discussion for anything with Kirk. But the fact that we didn't hear anything and Joe Burrow goes on the shelf, I think that's pretty indicative of where this team stands and what they want to do. They want to see what they have on the back end. They inquired about Jameis Winston, I believe, and just a more affordable guy. And your guy is already being paid a lot of money. That guy being Joe Burrow, he's making $55 million or something. You're not going to want to bring in a $30 million quarterback it's crazy at that point, money-wise. But desperate teams do desperate things, and we'll see who gets desperate. But I think nobody's at that desperation point as of right now. All right, let's keep on rolling through. Tony Moore says Zach Robinson needs to go back and study red zone offensive play calling. We talked a lot about the red zone. I didn't want to skip over your comment, Tony, but no, Zach Robinson does have some shortcomings, and those come in the red zone. And he needs to be more effective in the red zone, and this offense in general needs to be more effective. I asked Raheem Morris about it earlier this week, and he said it was as much just execution as it was anything else. That's what he told me. We'll see. I went back and watched the film, and it looked just sort of vanilla to me, and that needs to be better. Communication needs to be better, and execution needs to be better. I just think everybody needs to be better, but you got to score points. You need to score touchdowns. You had 4 field goals in this game, and it's good enough to win on Sunday, but it may not be enough to win moving forward. Diallo comes in. I don't want to jump out the window. The Vikings were hurt. Okay. I don't have a lot of sympathy points for teams who get hurt in the NFL, just in general. I mean, they had their starting quarterback. They had the better of their two running backs. You still had Justin Jefferson. I mean, they're a good team. They're a good team for a lot of different reasons, and they're really well coached, and it's a good football team. You know, they're all pros, right? But it's like their best players were still out there. I mean, you had some defenders who weren't there, and the Falcons beat them for it, but that's life in the NFL. People are hurt. It's one of those things, and you're still expected to win football games. Stephen Bates says, "How dare you question week 2 excitement?" I know, right? Let me be excited. I'm pumped up, and then I'm just trying to share all of that excitement with all these folks, man. Michael Baxter says, "College football game time is the best." I appreciate you. Thank you for listening over there on 92.9 The Game, 8 o'clock in the morning on Saturdays. But no, I really appreciate that. But look, I appreciate everybody. I appreciate everybody who jumped in here. I'm not going to be able to get to all of these comments. I'm going to try to scroll through. And Winston Thornton says, "Great content, brother. Appreciate you, my man. Thank you so much." And then Tony, this will be our last comment here from Tony Moore here on YouTube. Thank you to everybody who dropped in comments. We had lots of involvement today, so I really appreciate all of you. Just kind of having this dialogue, talking back and forth is what I love to do. I mean, we've been doing it for 65 minutes straight. I've just been sitting here talking at a screen for 65 minutes. It's a long time, man. But I see we've got 150 people or so across all platforms, and that's why I do it. This is why I continue to do what I do. It's a pleasure. But Tony says, "Speaking of which, how about the whole special teams improvement?" Yeah, the special teams as a whole was fantastic. I was very, very pleased with what we saw. And I mean, the whole game was really good. And it was the fact that the Falcons dominated. We talked a little bit about what they did on offense, where they ran the ball for 200 plus yards. And then on defense, where you hit the quarterback 11 times, you get a 60% pressure rate. You have 6 sacks in this game. You hold them to 78 yards, which, by the way, they've only done this Falcons team. You want a stat, folks? The Falcons have only held their opposition throughout the course of a season to under 100 yards per game one time in the last 20 years. One time. And I don't know how much longer it is, because the stats that I was looking at only went back to 2004. It happened one time. It was in 2011, right? They're doing that right now. They're holding opponents to 89 yards per game. It's pretty damn good. But the defense does what it's supposed to do. The offense does what it's supposed to do. But special teams did its job too. And it is so important when you have all 3 phases of the game working together. Now, the offense needs to get better in the red zone, and I've acknowledged that. I've said that. But largely, the offense did a really good job. This is one of those spots, the special teams, that gets kind of omitted when you start talking about this kind of stuff. But Mike Ford forced a fumble in punt. You had great tackles. You had nobody beat you in those situations. And then Parker Roman comes out and makes all of his kicks. You do your job, you win the game. And it's not always sexy. It's not always the craziest thing, but that's the simplest thing. And that's why the Falcons won. They won in all 3 phases. And I think the special teams, to your point, is fantastic. All right. I appreciate everybody who jumped in here. Like I said, we're up to almost 200 people across all platforms. So it's just so much fun talking to you. So I appreciate all of you. Make sure to give me a follow at GChapATL. Make sure to subscribe to the video, to this channel if you're over here on YouTube. Make sure to do that as well. But Scott and Nick, they're going to be back with you on Wednesday morning. But I'll be back with you on Thursday at 6 p.m. So make sure to set a reminder and come on and join me. We'll talk a little Falcons and we'll have a lot of fun. But we'll look ahead to the Carolina Panthers and kind of what we can expect moving forward into that one. Like I said, give me a follow at GChapATL. Go check out some content that we have coming out. I wrote about four articles or so. I got another one coming out here in a little bit. Publishing it all up there. And you can also check it out, si.com/NFL/Falcons, Falcons on SI. You can just Google it. Probably a little easier for you. But my name is Garrett Chapman for Falcons on SI. I will see you all very soon. Well, on Thursday. But till then, go Falcons. Talk soon.